Hello, thanks for joining me for your June monthly horoscope for the Sun or the Ascendant. If you've yet to subscribe to my channel, I'd be honoured if you did so now. Please click or tap on the bell notification symbol. Every time I drop a video, you'll get an alert. Also, if you'd like to ascend above your zodiac sign forecast and embrace more serious astrology, check out my very special offer. A character analysis and a 12-month forecast, 30% off, will give you searing insights into your future prospects and also help you to understand what makes you tick at a deeper level. This is based on your time, date and place of birth and is totally unique to you. No two charts are the same. Please see the link below for more. Hello Gemini and welcome to your monthly horoscope for June. The month begins with a stellar lineup in your sign in the guise of the Sun, Mercury your ruler, the lovely Venus and the North Node, which is very much about the societal direction of travel, all to do with trends. So this gathering of energy is really encouraging you to think about what's important to you, the individual. It's a great time to launch new ideas or to incentivize or add extra structure to things that are ongoing that are important to you. But of course, Mercury, your ruler, is in retrograde as this month begins. So some of the hopes you have right at the start of the month may not exactly unfold in the way you foresee. And I think it's going to be important to be quite philosophical if that happens. But on the second, a great development is that Venus moves out of your sign and into Cancer, where it joins up with Mars, at least briefly. Now, this suggests that some kind of financial improvement can start to evolve for you, which can really thrill you. But also, it is true that the Sun in the first week is forging a brilliant angle to Saturn. Yes, I know Saturn's got a pretty dark reputation, but it is what gives us that discipline. And it's in the part of your horoscope that's very much about the truth of situations. And therefore, if you're researching anything and you're wanting to be very detailed, I think Saturn in that supportive trine with the Sun, which is giving you lots of get-go, is very helpful. What's less helpful is the fact that your ruler Mercury is of course in retrograde but being challenged by Neptune over this first week. And if you're not really clear about what you want to achieve, it may feel that everything that you do try just seems to get washed away. You don't really get any traction and you could actually feel a bit washed out. So it depends on your unique circumstances. I think if you're a very sensitive Gemini, there's a much greater chance you can be affected by Neptune. If you're a more pragmatic Gemini, you can embrace that energy of the Sun and Saturn and the fact that Venus, which is a financial planet after all, it's not just about attraction and beauty, it moving into your second house can trigger an improvement in your finances. And talking of finances, and even your ability to draw someone to you in a romantic context, Mars, the planet of passion, in the first 10 days of this month, is in opposition to Pluto. This is one of the most full throttle of all planetary aspects. It's very much about neat desire. So if there is a plan that appeals to you to improve your lot, this is going to push you to show the desire to reach your goal. The one thing we need to be aware of with Mars and Pluto in the mix, particularly as Mars is in a more detrimental position, it's in its full, is to not try too hard, to not ride roughshod over anyone else's rights or feelings. But so it can give you a lot of charisma. And if there is someone that you're really drawn to in a romantic context, they may find you almost utterly irresistible in the first 10 days of this month. Now on the 10th, we have a glorious event, an annular solar eclipse in your sign. And that's going to provide a backdrop for the next 6 months. This really is the heavens saying to you, look, whatever creative strands you want to move forwards with, whatever flair you have that you want to take more seriously, this is a wonderful time for you to showcase it. But because Neptune is squaring this solar eclipse, once more, we have to be aware of what Neptune's about. Neptune's about dreams, it's about spirituality. It is about the more invisible realm. It's more about our subconscious, can be about our hidden side. But in the 10th house for you, I think it can see you coming up with lots of very good ideas. It's just in order to gain the recognition or the respect from those in positions of authority. For example, if you're needing to lend money from a bank to fund a business idea, do make sure that your imagination is closely melded with the practical application. Otherwise, someone could think that your ideas are too airy-fairy and not substantive enough. But on the 11th, for you, a wonderful event, because Mars moves into the sign of Leo. Now, Mars in Leo is very charismatic. And also for you, this is your 3rd house. So it's emphasizing your natural Gemini energies of self-expression. This is going to give you enormous thrust in the last 2/3 of this month, and a lot of enthusiasm for whatever you're talking about to others. And it's going to be very difficult for other people not to get caught up in that enthusiasm with you. Now, of course, since the 2nd week of January, Uranus and Saturn, the 2 rulers of Aquarius, have been in a difficult relationship. They've been in a right angle. Now, for you, because the sign of Aquarius is a sister air sign to you, Saturn generally can be very constructive for you. It's just making you aware that learning things or being very well briefed or being very realistic about the truth of situations is being pushed to the fore. The problem with Uranus is it's in the 12th house of Gemini's situation, which is creating a lot of subconscious restlessness, or perhaps past stuff which is being stored away and not properly rinsed through or dealt with. Perhaps it's coming to the surface in almost at times like a powder keg way. It's very explosive, and it can happen very unpredictably as well. So if there is an essential truth in a relationship that is not really being heard by someone who's important, it can create volatility. And this may reach a point of high intensity right at the heart of this month. It's going to definitely show itself for you, Gemini. I think it depends on your unique circumstances. But if there is something that's been pushed to one side and not really dealt with, that may create a greater need to really grapple with it. Now, on the 20th, the Sun moves to join with Venus in the sign of Cancer. Now, the Sun in Cancer is very much about the home, the family, emotions and security. But for you, this is your sector of everyday resources, and it's also about how you feel about yourself. But if you're wanting to boost your finances, you have a brilliant window of opportunity, because for the next week, the Sun forges an awesome angle to Jupiter in the sign of Pisces. And this is going to give you an opportunity to be more ambitious, to aim high, to reach for the stars. And you could have a huge slice of fortune around your resources in that week from the 20th. Now, ironically, on the same day, Jupiter actually goes into a retrograde. But don't think that you're automatically going to be unlucky when it comes to how you're linking with the world at large. Jupiter's a very big planet, as you know. So when it slows down, it does slow things down for us all, and often to do with the economy. Now, Jupiter's retrograde last year was particularly bad because it was already in a zodiac sign that it doesn't fare well in the sign of Capricorn, where it is in full, F-A-L-L. So every 12 years, you can look back through the records, there is always a bit of a financial downturn whenever Jupiter goes through Capricorn. Now, Jupiter through Aquarius is much more egalitarian. It's much more about the group. It's much more, we've seen quite a few class actions around employment rights, for example, whether it's the gig economy, whether it's workers who are wanting the same payment as men, if it's women, who feel they do the same job. Quite a lot of these things, because Jupiter's about the law and it's about philosophy. So just because Jupiter's going retrograde, don't automatically assume that through to the 17th of October, you're going to be unlucky. It affects everybody. And you do have this enormous window of opportunity immediately that you do need to seize. Also, on the 22nd, Mercury goes forwards. So if something has been going forwards, slipping, not gaining traction, finding it hard to get it going, I think whatever is really relevant for you will start to really get more grounded and more bedded in. There is a full moon on the 24th, and this is in the sign of Capricorn. Now, the moon doesn't like being in Capricorn very much. It's in detriment, but it is opposite, obviously, the sun in the sign of Cancer. So for you, it may be necessary to toggle your resources, the ins and outgoings. And it's also true that in week 3, Venus in Cancer is also caught up in the polarity between the 2nd and 8th houses of your situation. But that could be interesting, because maybe someone's going to come through who really, really is strongly drawn to you at quite a romantic level. And I mean all the way down to neat attraction. So this could be someone who you really fancy or really fancies you. As I'll say to everyone in everyone's forecast, when Venus and Pluto are in an awkward link, like an opposition, some kind of temptation comes up, sexually or financially. Something is offered which seems amazing, but there's usually some kind of catch. Sometimes there isn't, and we have to evaluate it for ourselves. So I think this full moon is just saying to you, decipher whether, if there is someone who's presenting a business opportunity or who's really drawn to you romantically, just decipher what their true motivations are and stay conscious of your own. The 25th sees Neptune go into a retrograde. Again, a bit like Jupiter going into retrograde in the same location, the 10th house. It doesn't mean to say you're going to be unlucky. If you think about it, since 2012, Neptune has gone through, what would that be now? 8, this would be its 9th retrograde in your sector of work. And I think if you work in a healing industry, you're a therapist, a carer, you work in health, or you're some kind of light worker or a psychic, no doubt you would have thrived during that time. So Neptune retrograde just asks you to stay very attached to the reality of what's possible, because obviously it's in a square with that awesome solar eclipse in your sign. So it's just about staying real, but staying in touch with what you want to do as an individual. Now, from the 26th to the 30th, Mars goes into quite a trenchant opposition with Saturn. If there's somebody that you feel is needing of a very clear and direct conversation with, that's a very polite way of saying, of avoiding using the word beginning with B. But if you do feel you want to have that frank encounter and tell someone exactly how you feel, the chances are you're going to do it from the 26th to the 30th. But when Mars is opposite Saturn across the 3rd and the 9th house, if you're travelling anywhere, don't rush. And then finally, as the month comes to a close, good old Mercury comes out of shadow. So on the 26th, there probably has been some moments of moving forward, stopping, reflecting, feeling that you're going backwards, frustration, irritation. That's what happens with Mercury retrograde, as you know. But you get to the 26th and it is moving forwards. And it's funny, because of that Mars opposition with Saturn across the 3rd and the 9th house, which is very much about communication, philosophies. If you do have that conversation that's been brewing up all month, it may be a worker who works for you. It may be a boss you need to clarify something with. It may be an offspring. It may be a parent. The 10th house depends on how it manifests itself through Neptune in your situation. But by the end of the month, I think it's all going to come out. As my mum used to say, she was a real old Cockney, it'll all come out in the wash, don't you worry. So it'll all come out in the wash at the end of this month. But there are some serious opportunities for progress as long as you keep it real. But I do think those financial situations can improve pretty well at the start of the month.